City of Anamosa City Council regular session, Monday, August 24th, 2020, 6 p.m. Anamosa Library and Learning Center via Zoom. 1.0 roll call.
Here.
Here.
Lockhart.
Here.
Zumba.
Here.
Stout.
Here.
Capron.
Here.
All council members are present. 2.0 pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Veronica with the library temporary filling in for Rebecca has a few words to say for those on the virtual Zoom.
So if you are joining us via Zoom today, you are currently all muted. If you would like to speak and address the council, then you can either message in the chat function to me, or you can use the raise your hand function. If you're on a computer, you might need to click on participants at the bottom, and the raise your hand function should show up there. If you are on a phone, you can press *9 and that will raise your hand so I know that you need to speak. And then when it's time, I will unmute you, and please state your name and address when asking a question. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Veronica. 3.0 approval of agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by John to approve. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimous. 4.0, motion to approve the minutes from the following meeting. 4.1, August 10th, 2020, regular council meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Rich. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimous. 5.0, public hearings, none. 6.0, proclamations, none. 7.0, old business. 7.1, discussion and possible action on Sycamore Street project. Lindsay Beam with Schneider Associates is present. Could you come up and give us a brief summary?
Well, I don't know a ton about the project, but I didn't come to answer questions because we hadn't. I know there was some topic of ADA compliance. Is that the question? As far as ADA compliance goes, existing sidewalks and routes, we have to consider the crossing from one end of the sidewalk to another over street as part of the sidewalk, the route essentially. So when you alter that route, you have to bring it into compliance with the ADA laws. So maintenance projects don't necessarily count as far as like steel coating or maybe or upgrading a steel coat or crack sealing, but asphalt does count as what was the term I used, but a modification to the route. So when you do that, you have to make the route ADA compliant from curb to curb, from right away to right away. So if you were to do an asphalt overlay, you should make the upgrades to the intersection for ADA compliant. You don't have to put in new sidewalks where there are none. That is not the thing. It's all about making what exists as a route that people can use up to code.
In your memo, you said there were 10 locations?
I think so, yeah. There's a couple spots where there's nothing going across from side to side. So I was just counting ramps and then crossings. I just, from an aerial photo, they could be slightly different. I was just going off of that because I haven't really done a field visit for it.
But when you're saying crossings, are you saying driveways?
Nope. I'm just talking like, so if there's, at each end there's an intersection. And there's technically 1, 2, 3, 4, I said 10. Oh, is there an updated memo?
Well, I don't know that. In the one thing I thought I saw there was 10.
There might be 10 ramps
And it was confusing me how we came to 10.
Well, shouldn't, yeah, sorry. I know I'm doing some quick math, and so my data was wrong. 10 sidewalk ramps because there could technically be 2, 4, 6, 8. There could be 16 total if every intersection had a ramp to, both corners, right? So there's 10 actual ramps where they actually use the curb. There's 10 ramps and 5 crossings where they actually go all the way across, so from one end to the other.
So, but we're talking one block, so you're talking
Both intersections.
both intersections
Both
and,
intersections. Where you change an intersection because you didn't go all the way across the intersection, but typically, and maybe you could get away with not doing every end of the intersection, but when you impact the street, you're supposed to fix everything resulting in that, that intersection. I'm not sure how far you're taking the asphalt, you're taking all the way through to the other side of the intersection. I really don't know much about.
yeah, I don't think it was, and I know on
And that
the,
might be.
on the other side of on the east side of North Williams, there's no sidewalk.
Yes, but it looks like there is on one house, and it looks like people have been using it. There's a landing that it could connect to, so it's questionable. There's a lot of
Okay.
ADA, there's a lot of interpretation, documentation, and doing the best that you can. It really is a gray area. I won't tell you ever exactly what to do. I'll tell you what is advisable. There's a lot of times there's charts that say strongly recommended, advised, possible. I mean, there are literally charts and ADA rules that say these things like required, recommended, etc. So you have to kind of make those determinations. I can tell you that doing nothing is it's typically gotten other places in trouble if you do it enough or if somebody points it out. And if you don't do it, if nobody points it out, honestly, go on forever. That's the only thing I'm going to tell you is that there are places that do get in trouble, but yeah, it kind of also, has to do with the demographics of the community. Some communities don't really have anybody out using ADA compliant, things, or they know the routes that don't work for them and they just avoid them, and it isn't an issue. So I can only give you facts because I know this is a hot topic.
And there are no alternatives.
Do nothing. Maintenance, do nothing, or if you're going to make the alteration, you have to bring in some funds.
So any street,
Or do whatever you want, but I'm advising you.
I understand.
but any street that gets an asphalt overlay is supposed to be brought up to ADA compliant then?
Where there's an
Existing
route.
route.
So if there's 0 sidewalks on a block and nothing crossing or touching the curb, you're fine.
Yeah, don't have to put it in.
It's like one of those, this sort of exists, if somebody has relied upon it as a route, you can't just take it away. Make it compliant.
Yeah.
We're currently doing 2 other overlays, Sales Avenue and Huber. I mean, there's sidewalks along there too.
Yeah, so
Oh, yeah.
they're supposed to be evidently ADA compliant.
But we're picking our battle.
And Huber and Cedar is not. There's no cutout in the curb
So they're gonna do it
after the overlay.
which I don't know. That's something that we'll have to find out. So if they do this shrink the street by 4 feet, like the plan is, do they need to do it to both sides or just one side?
You can reduce the distance to the curb or.
No, they were gonna shrink the street 4 feet on each side of the street.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Yeah, anywhere you're messing with the crossing, you gotta hit both sides.
right, and I get that, but if we only shrink 4 feet on the north side of Sycamore, leave the other side alone, that's a lot closer to the ground, be easier to do the ADA compliance there. What would have to be done then on the north side of North Sycamore to,
Is that what this there?
yes,
From an eyeball of the retaining wall, I mean, that you guys are on is the right idea. That is a very plausible option, unexpensive. Looking at it, if there weren't utility poles there, which there are, you can even bring the sidewalk closer to the street. You honestly could bring it down closer to like the curb, the back of the curb. You don't have to have it at the edge of the right of way the other direction. If you thought there was more room within the yard to bring it down naturally. But those poles, I know there's overhead poles going up the north-south of that, and they're really close, and that I doubt you'll get the utility company move them easily, unless they're already planning on doing some there. But yeah, that's another option. To try to cut their slopes down, because the closer you get the sidewalk to the street, the flatter that street was.
So the whole sidewalk would have to be replaced to get it closer to the street.
or as much as you need to bring your intersection into compliance. That's another, I mean, you've got to go at least 15 feet away from the intersection, and then usually it's like another 15 feet to match it into existing. You don't have to keep going forever because you'll never sometimes find it. Like you keep going forever away to find compliance, and that's not possible.
In reading through this though, I didn't read that we're gonna narrow the street. I thought this was just the re-blacktop and the existing width and then the sidewalk.
Well, that was the plan that we
yeah,
had,
initially.
but the plan that was presented originally was to narrow the street 4 feet on each side of the street. So basically narrow the street a total of 8 feet. That was the original intent. And at that time, I know Jacob said what they were planning on doing at the corner of Sycamore and North Williams was just putting a pad there for ADA crossing, but Jacob told me that nothing else needed to be done for ADA compliance, which now, from what you're saying, what he said is false. So with that pad, we were going to be misled and potentially down a path of trouble.
I struggle always with it. You can do whatever you want, and it works in a lot of places. But I know we work in Cedar Rapids a lot as engineers, and they've had Department of Justice pretty much move in, and like they measure everything. So we've even designed things to be inches over the limits to make sure that nobody misses a check box anywhere. And there's stuff that gets torn out and replaced all the time. You're not to the point where anybody's paying attention. So I mean, you guys have to make those calls. I can tell you what the rules say and what
we tried
interpreted and enforced from other communities.
we tried to cut into corners, we would get a reputation that they would forget for a while. We were better off just to make sure we do it right the first time.
Because all it's going to take is one phone call.
Yeah.
But the
Costs you a lot
traffic
more
on
money
that
to do it
sidewalk,
twice than it does to do it.
I will go days and days and never see another person on that sidewalk, days and days and days. And I just, for the expense and other places where the sidewalks need to be so bad.
All the other going east, there's no sidewalk the whole way down.
No, I know, but that's not what I mean, Jeff. Like out to Walmart and Tyson's, people are walking on the highway
there's no
because there's
sidewalk
no
there.
sidewalk there. And we can't afford to put a sidewalk there, but we have to do a retaining wall
Right.
to
But
renew the
to
street.
Jeff's point, going down Sycamore, there should be a sidewalk because it leads to 2 school buildings.
Oh, sure, I don't disagree. But there isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd just be curious to carefully go around and see the recent overlays we've done. You know, is this been taken care of each time? And I have a hard time believing that it has.
And the code talks about ideally you have what is called a transition plan that you've had in place where you kind of think about programming and that stuff as you do. And that way, if somebody comes in and says, what's your plan for doing this? You're like, look, here's our plan. As we can afford and do these projects, this is how we're doing it.
Like I said, when they did North Ford, when I worked here, that was, that's where I'm going out of town. That was the main one. Them, they did make them all ADA compliant at that time. But there's, sidewalks everywhere there.
Yeah, those sidewalks were in really bad shape, but now they're.
Yeah, anyway, yeah. But one was a 1/4 inch off, and we were supposed to have to replace it, because they said it wasn't level.
A
It
1/4
never
inch,
did get done.
a 1/4 inch.
Yeah, because it had to be flat right there. If the wheelchair's there, it won't start. Way it was explained to me anyway, but when I was there, we never got to it. I don't know if it was ever done, but it was that fine of, they wanted that level.
Now, will they come and check our street when we do that?
Only if somebody
But
complains.
yeah. Do it right first time.
I just have a hard time. I mean, we have so many sidewalks in need of repair and lack of sidewalks where we need sidewalks. This is more than just a sidewalk. It's more retaining wall, utility moving, and less about a sidewalk.
That's where the money's gonna be.
You do a lot of sidewalks for $60,000 or whatever.
And this is all gonna be contracted, it's not, it's gonna be done in-house.
Not that, I don't think that'd be feasible for that, Alan. That's just, I think you
Sidewalks,
take too much out and there's projects in town that could be done, but that one's a pretty big, having to lower it that far and,
if the sidewalks or something like that, we should.
yeah,
Well, yeah, the
Once-
sidewalks,
that part, would have to get it down to the legal level, and then get that done, and then, yeah, they could,
once the retaining wall's done.
yeah, could do that. But again, the utilities, I've talked to a line, whether they're gonna charge, move, I don't know, is that just a new pole, Dan?
You also get, MVPs, for Soka Valley's fiber run up there now too.
Through all that,
It might be cheaper to run the sidewalks where they're at than to have to pay to have the poles moved and then move the sidewalk.
yeah, just so much to look into there, for like Kay said, and if anybody's that way, I had a friend was, and he said, you won't believe how hard it is to get around town, in a wheelchair. And again, if there's one person there, they could use it, that's,
But the only way to get to that street is almost straight up a hill every direction.
yeah,
Except
it's
out
not-
north, Scott Street. If I was in a wheelchair, I wouldn't even attempt it.
no, up Sycamore.
It's gotta come down.
Yeah, they're all would be tough.
Yeah.
Tough, it's not an easy one.
But that doesn't give us an excuse not to do
She won't commit.
it. I know.
You know,
I don't know what's going on about it, but yeah,
Well,
this is always a problematic area for every
Yeah.
community, so, yeah.
and yeah, it would be tough, but with motorized wheelchairs and
And those carts. they
Those
got
carts,
four-wheelers,
they can do it.
yeah. We got a neighbor that's got one.
so you can't play the it's on hill thing. That's, it's-
You're right.
I know what you're saying, but
Yeah, you do it right or don't do it at all, I guess.
I think this is gonna require some more and processing.
It's a big undertaking.
But we have contract, but
Hey,
You need to look into that more often.
but
I do have a question on my property. I want to replace a bunch of sidewalk up there. What do I do now?
I'd wait.
I would.
Now, the other problem or question I have is if we try to keep this where it's at, that retaining wall, is that then going to be on Dan's property? Are we going onto a private citizen's property?
Not without an easement.
Right. So that's something we've got to take into consideration too, as we think about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's, if possible, temporary easement just for construction of the retaining wall. If not, then you gotta get some sort of permanent.
because in 20 years, when the retaining wall starts to settle, and then it's on his property, it's, think about that too. They don't last forever. They aren't straight forever.
Well,
No,
the
they're
other, the other part of this is, in working at this, and how high do you say this retaining wall is gonna be? Is it like
I
8 foot?
saw I got.
I looking at the bids, I think it said 8
Yeah.
foot.
That sounds kind of shocking.
Well, and then it becomes, is that going to be potentially a safety hazard? Because there's gonna be some kid wanting to walk on top of
They're
it,
gonna wanna jump off that,
or,
just because it's there.
and, I've had a friend who had a retaining wall and he backed his lawnmower off of it, and broke himself up big time.
I imagine it requires a railing. I imagine not even a half that height would require it.
Is this retaining wall just on Sycamore, or does it go around on North Point? You don't
If you
know.
do your narrowing, you might have some more space, but yeah, it looks like where the stairs are, it looks like you would have it extend both directions where the stairs are. Where there's stairs, that's a good indication of engineering, you're gonna need retaining walls.
Yeah,
Where there wouldn't be stairs,
I'm
they're not cheap to
putting
construct, so.
I'm not putting you on the spot.
It sounds like we need to find some other people to look into it too and get some other opinions.
Yeah, this isn't gonna be something decided tonight.
No.
Something that, I know we made, when we talked about this back in, what was it, May or whatever, we said to have Sycamore done in 2020. And nothing happened, it got drug out, that it got to this point that we had to have this discussion. Which is a little disappointing that it didn't get brought to us earlier.
Well, like they're doing Sales Avenue this week. I mean, are they planning on the same company gonna do? They plan on doing this?
Well, they're the ones who made the bid for one of the bids for the retaining
I
wall.
mean, as it stands right now, they're not gonna come in and do the street. As it stands, does anybody know?
No. I believe that got put on hold.
Yeah, they don't have it. With the retaining wall bid, it's higher than the threshold, so it's gonna have to be engineered and a formal bid process. Not just quotes.
Yeah, 50,000 is the bid threshold. That kind of, yeah, for sure. So, yeah, you can, when it comes to the quotes, you can, city employees can quote on their own projects as well. But, if this was, I don't know, was it 34 was almost, they don't make a lot of sense. The language, the code for the direction of infrastructure, but yeah, 50,000 is the bid threshold, and there's no quote required underneath that for resurfacing projects.
It's gonna have to have back anchors to keep that wall up. That means we're gonna have to go way into Dan's property for sure.
Or bring everything closer to the
Or-
street.
Which I think moving it closer to the street would probably be the right answer.
I would think.
So, yeah, we're gonna have to sit down and take another look. Shane, you got something you wanna say?
You would get a bid from King's Concrete on retaining wall block. It's not the normal block, it's bigger block. So you set them with the skid loader, they don't move as much. I know Bryce Rickles used it for his new house. And he went up 22 feet. And they anchored those back, but I don't know if you'd have to anchor them back up before they get up over 8 foot. But they're bigger, and they might be cheaper than these that are 55 pounds. They're gonna be 300.
Each one of them has a chance to move. Where you get a bigger one, there's less moving pieces.
Right.
Yeah, please.
And you can get them, I think you can get them where they bend around the corner. So like you're doing Dan's, I know like Dan's already, he's built, it bows.
Mhm.
You can already, I think you can already get those so they bow. And I think they'd probably be a little cheaper, but I don't know. But I mean, I would think about that route, and they're pretty fancy now. I mean, they got design in them, and then you can do whatever you want.
Are they similar to the big blocks like
Yep.
Bard has?
Yep, but they're not, you can get them as wide or thin as you want.
I've been out to King's and they make some really nice stuff.
I don't know, like, what was it, when the proposals, but on the Minger one, it talks about using key block. So somebody is talking to Kings about what block to use. And maybe that was, I don't know, what they've been told to bid on as well. But there's a, it talks about Kings compact through retaining wall block in any color choice, so. There was some conversation had about block type.
You said find out because King sells your normal plus maybe the big few.
Yeah, I don't know what that one looks like. This is 82 pounds, but yeah. I don't know.
You talk to Stone Concepts out here in Fairview too, because they're tied in with Kings.
Yeah, the block at the wastewater plant was king, I remember that, and in the flood.
Anything else for Lindsay?
Thank you.
Thanks.
We wanted a definitive answer, but
Well, engineers have those gray areas, and you're not gonna get very good gray.
we figured that out.
Trying to
Well,
speak,
it's
but
first gray on everyone else.
Thanks, Lindsay.
With more planning and discussion to come on this topic, I would see that we take no action at this time. Let it remain fluid. All right. 8.0, new business.
son of a gun. They didn't let me speak.
I'm sorry, who do we have here?
Hello?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, who do we have?
This is Bill Fleeler. I live at 401 North Davis Street. And is it still possible for me to make a comment regarding one block of Sycamore?
Sure.
I would favor that. I apologize for not engaging the public's comment. So yes, please proceed, Bill.
Just a couple of thoughts, and I have.
We lost you.
You got muted there. Let me try to unmute you. There, now you're back.
Okay, sorry. This section of Sycamore has been waiting for 4 years to be resurfaced. The other parts of Sycamore to the east and west were done 4 years ago. So, you know, we've already did it, and I think that was why the council earlier this year made the mandate that it would be completed in 2020, which we appreciated. So now with this other issue, I can understand some impediment to that. But what concerns me now is, I heard earlier in the conversation, there's some other streets that have begun resurfacing and are actively being resurfaced. And if there are intersections that are not being brought up to ADA compliant, then I don't understand why it would be so imperative that the corner of North Williams and Sycamore be brought up if some of these others are being ignored during the resurfacing process. So you would think that the sidewalks would be done prior to the street, but I really don't know. Anyhow, I just wanted to point out those two things. That's all I really had to say.
All right, thank you, Bill. Veronica, is there anyone else that would like to speak on this subject?
No, I don't see any comments or hands raised.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'm going to move into 8.0 new business. 8.1, request for approval to move forward with TIF agreement process for Scale Tech. Nick Von Munster, president of Scale Tech. Veronica, is Nick zoomed in virtually?
I don't see anyone named Nick. There's a couple
Okay.
unnamed on here, but I do not see Nick.
Well, Nick submitted.
You got me in there. Did you hear?
They what?
Did you hear what I had to say?
Is this Nick talking right now?
That's still Bill.
Could you mute?
It's not a muted me.
No.
I could talk all night if you'd like, but
Veronica, could you please mute Bill?
Yes.
Thank you. Council. So you received a proposal from Scale Tech. Sure you have.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve, the Scale Tech tip request.
Second.
We have a motion by Rich, second by Jeff, to accept the proposal from Scale Tech. Any further discussion on the council? Is there any public comment?
No.
All those in favor of forwarding the proposal on to the bonding agent for their review, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Again, it advances to the next step, which is the bonding agent will review the proposal and make sure it aligns and meets the necessary requirements, and then it will come back to the council. 8.2, discussion of possible action, street department.
Would you like for me to begin?
Please.
All right. Well, there is a new sidewalk between Main Street and the library. Love the sidewalk, but the drop off is 2 foot. I can show you where it comes on my leg. It's very, very dangerous. No cone, no railing, no nothing. I can't remember how long the sidewalk has been there, but it's been long enough that at least there should have been a cone. In addition, on our bills is a cost of $3,700 for the sidewalk. It wasn't brought before council to spend those dollars. Was it in the budget? Don't know. I'd also like to know who's finishing the project, because the bill is on this month's to be paid, but yet there's holes on both sides of the sidewalk where the dirt hasn't been filled in. Is that going to be the city's, or was it part of the contract? I don't believe in paying for something until it's done. So there's that. It was nice to see the street sweeper this morning on Main for the first time in, I don't have any idea how long, and I don't know where it went after Main. I didn't hear it anymore. So I'd like to know more about when the street sweeper runs. Last time we met, we had a bill of $7,380 that, as far as I know, wasn't brought before council for MCV Concrete. I don't know what it was for. If MCV Concrete is a local business, I don't know where it is. I'm guessing it's not. I would like to see local businesses receive opportunities. Do you want me to go on? Okay,
You have
I'm
the
on a
floor.
roll. On 804 North Williams on May 13th, there's a failed storm drain. There are big holes in this person's yard. I submitted an email requesting something be done. And I understand waiting for a contractor. I really do. But surely we could have gone up and put some dirt in the holes temporarily so the gentleman didn't have to worry about losing his lawnmower in the holes. I'm really concerned about the potholes behind Main Street in the alley between Huber and Ford. They're huge. I mean, maybe it's not the time to resurface that alley, but the
Huber,
Oh,
pothole.
wait, are you talking about directly behind the businesses?
Mhm.
That's
That's
not
private.
city. Those are private.
That's private.
Those are owned by the private businesses.
Oh,
behind.
really?
Yes.
Well, thank you. I didn't know that. You learn lots. Well, they need to fix their holes. It's a good thing I don't do that. I wondered about the fact that none of the people on the streets evidently have a chemical application license to spray weeds and do that. So we hire somebody to do that all the time instead of doing it ourselves. I wondered, or I guess I was under the impression that the youth have completed a lot of the cemetery mowing. I wondered how the staff was reallocated since they weren't mowing. Am I wrong about the youth doing a lot of the mowing?
We don't mow the cemetery. We strength trim the cemetery. We mow. There's several other places that we picked up.
But you don't mow the cemetery. You didn't mow the cemetery.
Streets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I thought in one of your reports, you had in your report that you guys mowed the cemetery.
We string chain mows and we trim. We have 5 kids that go over twice a week. Not now, but just trim everything. So they do all the trimming at the cemetery.
Oh, that's funny because Streets in their report says they trim.
Maybe,
So-
maybe it was.
So who's actually doing it?
We are
Okay,
together. We're doing it together. I
okay,
guess.
so one report's wrong.
Well, I think it's together. Maybe it needs to be.
I mow.
He mows, we trim, and then we picked up some additional
Oh.
spots.
How long have you been trimming?
Since May.
You've been trimming the cemetery since May?
All year.
So how much time does that take?
It takes about 10 hours a week.
Times 5 kids or 4 kids.
Correct.
4 to 5 kids, so that's 50 hours.
No, total. So, yeah. you're
Yeah,
right.
50 minutes.
Yeah, yes.
50 hours and 10 hours.
So still, that's a lot of time that could be reallocated for something since they weren't trimming, I would think. And I really hate this phrase, but I'm going to use it because I don't want to mention names. So someone said that if you're going down the road here and you're going to turn on the Shaw Road, that the curve is kind of short, that maybe there needs to be some warning signs put up there that if you are trying to take that curve too quickly, you could end up in the other lane of traffic and bump into somebody. I just wondered if that had been evaluated. And so those are some of the things I wonder as I walk.
So you're done with your list?
Well, yes,
Okay.
unless I, think of something else.
I've got a short one, so can I just,
Go ahead.
about the street sweeper. It hasn't been on my street at all this summer, not once. So the reason I got was I don't have curb and gutter. But I have a neighbor with a very expensive motorcycle. And one of these days, he's just gonna come around the corner there where it's gravel, sand, and who's liable? So, but the excuse I got is I don't have curb and gutter. So, there.
Well, I want to go kind of off a case list and just say that, like the site, you're talking about hiring somebody local to do the cement work and so forth. I would hope that instead of hiring somebody, we do it ourselves.
Oh, I would hope so also.
Absolutely agree with that.
Definitely.
I don't think we need to do streets, but we certainly can do the patching. We can do the curbs. There's a lot of things we can do. As I understand it, we used to have forms to do the sidewalks. But I've heard that those forms got thrown away. We used to have a blacktop machine to do the alleys. I've heard it got thrown away. So our equipment evidently has been disappearing by being thrown away without the knowledge of the city. And that bothers me. You know, I'm reading the job description, and one of the items in the job description on 16 is communicate effectively and maintain working relationship with other city employees. And I've been told, the streets department's been told not to help anybody else, not to help water, not to help wastewater. That's not going according to the job description for the streets department. And, you know, if we've got the Parks and Rec doing the trimming at the cemetery, we could actually hire somebody part-time to do the mowing in the cemetery. We don't need our full-time people doing that they could be doing these projects, doing the street repairs, doing the sidewalks, doing trimming of trees, whatever needs to be done. And I've also heard that after the storm, they wouldn't let the new skid loader go out to help in the cleanup the first week. Now, maybe it made it the second week, but it wasn't allowed to go out the first week, which I don't understand. It should have been everything out on hand, on deck, working. There's just a lot that I think we need to sit down and say, here's the duties, priorities of the streets department that need to be met. And if they're not met, then things need to change.
I agree. And the biggest issue I have is one time for budget now is that the streets department head has been in these chambers. We got 2 action items tonight, and where they at?
If we get this thing straightened out, it'll make it easy to solve problems after that, because when something crops up, we sit down and we look at the job description, decide who's going to do it, and solve it. Instead of trying to take this big mud mess and try to smooth it out. So I agree with you completely. We need to start looking into it.
Yeah, I mean, actually, the way it looks to me like right now, unfortunately, and this is nothing against the streets department, but I could say we could have 2 full-time people down there who oversee a lot of seasonal help. Because why are we having these guys mowing? You know, why are we making $20-some an hour mowing when we can hire high school kids and retired people for 12 and not pay them benefits? And then I'd rather see the water and wastewater guys in the wintertime, if they need to plow, get the overtime. And after this storm, I would have thought our guys would have been getting some overtime, helping in the cleanup.
They left at 3.
Yeah, they kept their normal hours.
Kay brought up a good point too, this chemical application. Just a little training, and we could have it done in-house. We don't have to hire a contractor. It'd be less expensive for one thing. Sidewalks, curbs. If we don't have anybody that knows how to do it anymore, then we train them. There's no, I can put in sidewalks.
Well, and if we had 2 quality guys, they could oversee high school kids doing sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't take much.
No.
Like Rich said, we had some forms to do sidewalks. We had streets, all the bull floats, trowels, all that stuff. We always did it when some reason it broke, why the city crew just did it. You know, so why, like I said, hire 3,700 for this up here.
I don't know what it's like now, but when I built my shop, when the contractor comes in and you buy $10,000 worth of cement, he can charge another $10,000 for the labor.
Sure.
So if you get, you know, even $1,000 for cement for a run on the sidewalk, you're paying a contractor $2,000 to do it. And they get that $1,000 worth of cement, he can put that in a day, 2 days.
Yeah.
A couple guys.
You know, that's it. I don't know why it's not done. Another one is last month, Dan had the bill for the sludge haul for Bryce. We've got trucks. Yeah, they're gonna smell some. Wash them out good, put them in that chain link fence for a couple days. That was 3,800. That's a couple times a year besides Dan hauling some.
Yeah,
2-3 days of that, we could save pretty good money and they're getting paid
absolutely.
anyway.
I still think, and I still gonna push it to you, we bring it on the agenda and discuss it. But I'd like to see a motor pool. We're overlapping with equipment. Sure, there's some special equipment that we need, but it would save the city some money and equipment. If it's a motor pool, we could probably hire a good mechanic that'll keep a lot of it going without having to send it out.
Well, you have, it's not going both ways. You have, Parks and Rec is helping out the streets a lot. After the storm, I saw Dan's trucks hauling brush. But where's the streets trucks hauling the sludge? It's not going both ways.
Right. That was my point on working well with other departments. The other thing is Kleesner's ripped out the alleys that were redone. Why didn't we rip them out and save some money on that? We've got the skid loader just like they do. We could have ripped those alleys out and hauled that blacktop away. We could have saved some money there too.
Yeah, I know we got a lot of the brush picked up after the storms, but during the storm, I saw an awful lot of empty trucks driving around, which maybe they were going back to fill up, but a lot of people got their brush. I still think we need to go around the town and make a final run. There's still a lot of brush piles out by the street, and the residents are the ones that paid for those trucks. So I think under these circumstances, every last pile should be picked up. I have a handful of locations that are still sitting there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, across the street, the lady wasn't able to get her stuff out to the curb until her brother came from Wisconsin to help her. And it was just this weekend that he was able to do that. So there's a big pile.
Could we have a listing, if we know the place to make sure it gets hit? Because I know there's a lot of places in town that are not getting picked up.
Well, and actually, if they take the big trucks out and fill those trucks up as they go, they can take them straight out to the quarry instead of everybody having to run down by the wastewater plant and building that up, and then they've got to load them up and haul them off. Let's just save some trips and get things taken
The
care of.
big stuff's done, but you could take a big truck in a couple days, just hit every street. And then you see it, throw it in, and with the big trucks, you just take it to the quarry or wherever. But I feel pretty strongly about doing that, helping out the citizens.
Well, the wastewater plant is out there with their end loader all the time, pushing the piles around, making more room too. And,
Well, if everybody left at 3 or 3:30, there was nobody left to push the piles back, and then people got off work and loaded it up at nighttime. And I know Dan said he'd go down in the morning and push it back. So if there's somebody coming in the morning, they had room to unload because there was no second pile. When we had the last storm, we had out in front of the dike, in front of the tennis courts and the street shop, that was all brush pile, all that blank, along with the other pile.
I think they finally did move it out there.
Well, they did move one very, very late.
Well, yeah.
And it was just right there. It wasn't the whole length of that dike.
No.
I got a question. We've got a discussion here about things that need to change. Where do we start? If we're gonna do this, we need to start someplace. What do we do first?
Well, my thought is we need to probably sit down and come up with expectations of the street department. What do we expect out of them?
Job descriptions.
Well, we've got job descriptions. We need a description for the whole department of this is what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And that includes doing cement work and making sure that manhole covers are at the right height. Just coming up with an all-inclusive as much as we can, because there's always going to be something.
Is that more of a work session than a meeting?
Could be.
Can I make a motion for that?
Well, it's part of discussion on possible action on the street department, so I would certainly believe it could fall any type of outbound action can be decided.
I mean, before we do that, I mean, we sit here and obviously we break all this down, there's one person that manages what's going on with these things. And that person isn't here.
Yeah.
So I think we need to have this serious discussion, and that person will be there.
And I don't think this pit out here where the sidewalk falls out 2 feet can wait for discussion. It needs to have a cone there tomorrow, at the very minimum.
Who did the work there?
What's that?
What?
Who did the work there?
Fairview.
Fairview.
Concrete or whatever.
Fairview Concrete or something. And they were doing it like on, it was either the Tuesday or Wednesday after the storm. So it's been almost 2 weeks.
Yeah. And it's this deep.
That's 2 foot.
Yeah. Easy 2 foot.
So yeah, what's his bid? Was that their responsibility?
I don't know.
You need to know, I mean,
Usually
whatever.
it's not them, usually you're responsible unless you, the extra, you know.
Yeah, they do the concrete work.
Well, it's
I don't
over a
know.
storm sewer.
Okay.
So that, I understand, makes it complicated, and there's probably gonna have to need to be a rail there because you can't fill it in. But there could be a cone there. If you go up to, I think it's your bank, the sidewalk is just about this far down, and there's 2 cones there.
Do you know when that was done?
The cones?
Well, there's a couple of squares of sidewalk, but I just noticed that.
Oh, I don't know when it was done. I just noticed the cones when I was walking home from church and thought, oh, this drop off gets 2 cones. This drop off gets
I
nothing.
think the street should be aware of that stuff going on and take care of it as it goes.
Well, somebody drives around in a truck a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Looking for guidance, Rod.
well, you said you wanted a work session or thought.
I
a
would
work
like
session.
to move that we decide on a time and place for a work session for the street department to clarify the responsibilities that the street department has in this city.
So when would you like to do it? I'd like to do it sooner rather than
I
later.
would too.
I'm available anytime. If anybody's got a conflict of some day, it doesn't make any difference what day to me. I'll throw it in there as soon as I know that everybody's okay.
You want to do it on a Monday night?
Next Monday night, it'd be September
That'd be 31st.
or 31st, okay?
Then the next Monday would be
That's
Labor Day.
Labor Day weekend.
Then the next Monday would have a normal meeting.
Let's do it.
Let's
we
do
want
it
Coming
the
Monday night.
31st.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, you're right. That'd be the
Yeah.
third one, yes, correct.
Let's do it the
We'll
31st.
do it the 31st then,
Next Monday?
next
Okay.
Monday. Regular time, 6 o'clock.
Sounds good.
And is this gonna be superintendent there, all employees, just him,
Well, it's a work session, so
no action?
there's no action being made. It's a discussion of what we want to maybe have on the next agenda as far as our expectations of them, I guess. And, you know, at this stage, if superintendent shows up, fine. If he doesn't, at this point, I really don't care.
Well, I would think you certainly want superintendent there.
Well, he doesn't care enough for the 2 items that are here, so at this stage, I really don't care.
We typically put notices out when we're in work sessions, don't we? That's what I thought, yeah.
Ken made the motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Is that you, John?
Yes.
We had too much discussion in between.
There's a motion by Alan, second by John to the city to convene in a work session on August 31st to outline responsibilities for the streets department. Any further discussion? Is there any public comment?
Not on here.
All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion for the work session carried unanimously.
Could I just say that in the meantime, I would like to make sure that the street department is very aware that the limit, I believe, that the council decided was 2,500. Anything beyond that, we need to be informed of in case something comes up this week that we need to have done. Maybe we just need to remind.
Will do.
Thank you.
8.3, discussion of possible action on downtown flower beds for next summer. Whoever placed it on the agenda, I wish would.
This is mainly just to get the control of the flower beds back in the city. So that whatever plan we come up with, it's guided by us as far as what's getting spent on plans, what we're gonna budget for it, that kind of stuff. Just so it's not, this year was just,
In the last 2 years.
yeah, it just needs to be under our control so we can make sure it's as executed. That's pretty much the gist of it.
I'll make that motion.
I will second it.
There's a motion by Rich, second by Kay, to confirm that downtown flower beds will be in the control of the city for any activity that is placed there. Any further discussion on the council? Any public comment?
Nope.
All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. 8.4, review and approval of current bills.
I would really like to know what Fairview Concrete is expected to do to fulfill their job description of the sidewalk before they're paid.
Talking about where the dirt's being filled in. Where was excavated and now they're drop off. I would easily bet that that is on us. I mean, as many sidewalks and driveways that I see you report, it's the homeowner or the person that hires it done has to arrange that.
It's
I've
not,
not seen it where the cement person does it.
oh, okay.
So, I mean, I agree it needs to be done, but I think it is on the streets
Okay,
as opposed to Fairview Concrete.
And
okay.
what would it take? Like, not even half a day to get that accomplished?
Some black dirt and a shovel.
I mean, it really wouldn't take much to get it accomplished.
And there was a storm and stuff, it's like Kay said, there should have been some cones or something there when it's that much of a hazard.
So, Kay, your motion was to pay the bills with no exceptions?
Sure.
I'll second.
Any further discussion on the bills? Any public comment?
No.
All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to carry the bills carried unanimously. 8.5, review and approval of July treasurer's report.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Rich, second by John to approve the treasurer's report as submitted. Any further council discussion? Any public comment?
No.
All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to accept carried unanimously. 10.0, Mayor and Council's reports. 10.1, Mayor's report. Obviously, 2 weeks ago, we had a storm roll through the community that did pretty significant overall damage. So through the course of the last 2 weeks, during that cleanup, I received numerous, I wouldn't even begin to run a tally on that. Public comment and feedback on how the streets department worked diligently to get the streets open back up, get the, so that the flow of traffic could come and go. Also, the public comment was directed to the Anamosa Police Department in their diligence to direct traffic at service stations as well as other areas within the community that were impacted by the storm. The Park and Recs Department, again, for their diligence in getting the vast majority of the parks cleaned up and cared for. So I want to take, again, this opportunity to thank those personally for that hard work and dedication that they put in across the course of the last 2 weeks. Obviously, we know that it's still ongoing. It's not finalized yet, but you know that they're still working on it. They've made a lot of progress. In not to leave anybody out, I know the water department and wastewater departments also were coordinated in with on this. The Anamosa Fire Department, all city employees, thank you for getting everything open back up and back online. It's greatly appreciated, so thank you. Those are the only comments I have, unless anybody has questions for me. If not, 10.2 council reports.
I attended the library board meeting last week probably, and found that Rebecca is going to be sending out a survey to try to facilitate library provisions for the community. And so when you get the survey, fill it in and send it back to her. It's online.
Is this something new, okay?
Yes, yes, just to try to get an idea of the services that the library offers and whether people know about the services or not, the adult programs, the teen programs, the kid programs, the facilities that the books on tape and the CDs, and that you can find things genealogy wise here.
Well, good for Rebecca and the library team to have that forward thinking, how our customer service, how we can provide positive customer service environment. So kudos to them.
I don't have anything to report locally. I was on vacation. It got cut a little short. It started out in Southern California with a celebration of life for my wife's aunt's husband. We went through about 5 different states. I was in Utah listening to the news when I saw this black and red cloud go across the screen where they were explaining the weather. I've never seen black before, and I knew it was bad. And when I tried to call back here, I couldn't get a hold of Rod. I couldn't get a hold of my son. No one. The next morning at 3 o'clock, we headed back 20 hours to get here. I've never seen Cedar Rapids not being here. And when I turned north on I-3, there were semis laying on the sides, and Cedar Rapids was not there when I came up the hill. I had a lot of fear of what might have happened here in the city. It could have been worse, obviously, but as Rod said, I was quite impressed with the ability for me the next day when I went out in the car just to look around to be able to see what was going on and pretty much traverse most of the street. And it's nice to see all your smiling faces again. It's good to be back. I didn't get any diseases. The only thing I got was a mild case of home sickness, and I'm over that. So,
Thanks. Any other boards or comments? My apologies, I do need to back up. I completely skipped over 9.0, city administrator's report.
got to get away, didn't you?
I almost made it. We just had, the insurance adjuster was here and toured all the damage to the buildings and things last week. I think he finished up on Friday with the Parks Department. We've started work on our annual audit, so the state auditor is going to be our auditor for that. They sent us the list. It's going to be virtual because of the travel restrictions, of course. The 4-year audit is still ongoing. We had a lot of issues with technology after the storm. Phil did get us back on. The polls went out, the door went off and on. So he got us back online. We should be back online to get the 4-year auditor working again. Let's see. We're still looking at replacements for the tablets. We did not post anything for utility billing because it was the same time the storm hit. We didn't actually have access to the accounting system to even run the door post, so it would have just added something else to what was going on in town. So just so you know, we did not door post this month. I did send out a League of Cities conference information in your email if you want to sign up. There's a list of classes that you can choose from in there. If you want to go, just let me know which classes you'd like to go to, and I can get everything signed up.
Is it $50 a class or $50 a day or
For the whole
$50
thing.
for the whole thing?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Is there any questions or comments for Beth?
Just real quick, which buildings? I know the city shop had some damage. Is it anything else have damage?
The Warrant Center had quite a bit to the roof and some water damage. We did look at the roof here at the library because they did have water come in, kind of separated the seam in here on the ceiling. Not sure how that one's going to play out since the roof wasn't really damaged. City Hall, we had a lot of water come in. It did ruin the carpet in the one office. So they'll probably pay to replace that. And then of course the computer switch. The fire department, the flashing around the top of the building was pretty torn up and something went through the shed there. And the antenna was bent, as well as most of the antennas for the wastewater plant. Equipment, different lift station antennas will probably have to be recalibrated. And then 2 fans on the sludge storage building. So we have quotes for those. I just have to send them to insurance. But the pool had some damage to the roof and the flashing and fencing.
Batting cages,
Oh yeah, batting cages, soccer nets, pretty much a lot of it. It was a pretty long marathon with the adjuster while he was here. So.
Could have been a lot worse.
It could have been, yeah.
So I would imagine all the labor hours that were impacted or had to be directed for any type of storm damage cleanup and anything else. The departments are tracking those. They're going to submit.
Yeah, we're gonna try to. So on the FEMA form, they like to know like cubic yards of debris that was removed. So I'm not sure where we're at with the numbers on that. The other thing we're gonna submit for reimbursement for is the COVID. So they had a calculation you could do for what's available for your city to get reimbursed with. So we're working on that too. So it's a process. A lot of the FEMA stuff though, we're gonna have to separate what we're gonna cover with insurance from what gets submitted. is the trees, and we do have coverage for debris removal in our policy, not necessarily the whole city's debris removal, that would be FEMA, but like the parks and, different, the trees that have to be cut down.
And replacement, and some replacement of some of the trees.
Anything else for Beth? 11.0, public comment for items not on the agenda. We'll start with anyone present in the chambers tonight. If not, Veronica, is there anyone virtual?
There is not.
We'll move to 12.0, adjournment. Motion by Rich. second by-
Veronica,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm not on Zoom, I'm calling in on the phone.
Did you have something you wanted to say?
I do have a comment. This is Jan Hoyg at 506 North William Street. And just for clarification on the report about the damage for the storm. First of all, I want to thank whomever the volunteers were that went out to Riverside. Was Riverside included in the insurance adjuster's visit? And will the city be covering damage to stones out there?
Stones are not covered. Stones are considered private property.
Do we need then to confirm or clear it with anyone when we have those stones fixed, or can we just move forward with that?
You should just be able to move forward unless you need us to mark something. Like if the stone's completely moved off and you need us to remark the placement, just let us know.
Okay.
And remark those. But yeah, otherwise you can just contact the monument company and have them come out.
Okay. Again, thank you to everyone. That it was quite a surprise out there with all the damage. I know there was a lot of other things going on. So thank you to whoever helped clean that up. Good job.
Thank you, Jan. There's nothing else. We have a motion by Rich, second by Alan to adjourn. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to adjourn carried unanimous. Beth, you will send out a notice about next week's meeting with an
Stop doing
agenda.
that.